Welcome to our holistic health and wellness week-long series, where each day we take a look at a fascinating new piece of holistic healing technology. At the heart of this initiative is a shared commitment among all of the companies featured that they hold firmly to their values of being in service to others. And I align with this value as well by sharing this information with you. Our goal is to provide you with valuable insights into alternative forms of healing that may complement your wellness journey. Each video this week will feature a different device, and all of the related information will be listed in the show notes for your reference. We genuinely hope that you find this information helpful and informative, and we encourage you to leave a comment if any of these technologies resonate with you. We love hearing your feedback. Lastly, please remember that while these devices can offer supportive benefits, they are not a substitute for professional medical advice. So please use your own discernment to decide what resonates best with you. And if you find value in this content, please like this video and share it with anyone who you feel may benefit from learning more about these healing and wellness technologies that we discuss. We hope you enjoy this journey towards healing and holistic wellness. And as always, thank you for watching. Today, we are highlighting a holistic quantum wellness system called Focused Life Force Energy, otherwise known as FLFE, a free energy type device that works through quantum association. And we have with us today the co-founders of this system who've studied, measured, and activated high consciousness fields across the globe for over 10 years. So welcome, Jeff and Clayton. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Great to be here.
Great to be here. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you so much as well. I appreciate you joining us. I think a good place to start is to get to know you both better and just learn how you came up with this system. So I would love to hear that story.
Yeah, I'm Jeffrey Stegman and one of the co-founders of FLFE, sometimes also called Fluffy by Regina Meredith started that. We activate consciousness fields, high consciousness fields, all over the globe. Yes, and so we've been doing that for more than 10 years. We just passed our 11th year anniversary as a company offering this as a service, a subscription service. So people activate the consciousness field on their home or around a cell phone or around a business. Yep, so I came out of manufacturing and engineering. I do have a life sciences biological background as well. And met Clayton doing coaching. He did some coaching work for me for quite a while in sort of consciousness coaching, which was really amazing to me at the time, where he was measuring my consciousness in multiple areas of my life and helping me find those low spots. Then I could then work with energetic medicine to clear those limiting beliefs or old childhood traumas or whatever was there. So I got to know Clayton that way and became really comfortable with his kinesiology, his testing on Dr. David Hawkins' map of consciousness. And then we found this inventor and started working with these consciousness fields.
I started coaching as a profession in 1995. And the previous 11 years to that, I was in an Eastern-based philosophy, very active, and I was working for private schools. I wanted to work in the philosophical kind of centers that I was part of. So I had a lot of background and experience in philosophy. And when I made a career change, I decided to get into coaching. And I specialized in business as a spiritual path. That was my focus. I wanted to combine my kind of spiritual experiences with the training with where I thought I could do the most good in the world. And it seems that business has the most power in the world right now. At different times in history, it was the arts, or maybe it was certain religions, but it seems that business and, economics seems to be where the power is. So if you're trying to do the most amount of good you can, you go where the world needs it the most. At least that's what I thought at the time. I came across Dr. Hawkins' work in 2004. I just assumed it would work, and I persisted with it for 5 years. I did 2.75 million calibrations until I got really comfortable that I had accuracy in a certain context with people anyway, and properties. We're pretty good at measuring people and properties. So a mutual friend introduced Jeff and I. I was doing some coaching with him. He was another coach, and he was more of an executive leadership type, and I was the consciousness guy that he knew. And so I was working with Jeff, and I came across this inventor who'd been trying to create a free energy device to help humanity. And he was working on it for, I think, 7 years the time I met him. And they hadn't found a way to create free energy that you could plug something into, but they did find a way to focus life force energy. They kind of stumbled upon it, and they did create a free energy device that runs off the ether or the magnetic forces of the earth. And they would add a lot of electricity to it in the beginning to help it have more power to do more good. And we found ways to amplify the signal afterwards, so it's no longer plugged into the grid. So we did that. Jeff and I did that together, and we've been in business now just over 11 years. I think we're in 85 countries last time I checked, Jeff. Mm-hmm. It does change from time to time, but it's been a great ride. And there's lots more to talk about, but that's the background anyway.
No, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like it was like the perfect merging of science and spirituality, which I think is really what's needed right now in the world. I think we've been operating on one side or the other, and we really need to bring those two pieces together, which is really what our channel here on YouTube and our podcast is all about, is to help bridge that gap and show people that you can bring those two sides together. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to display that. And so thank you for sharing that. And I think everyone listening is probably wondering, okay, so what is this? How does this work? How is this going to help me? So I know when I first found out about it, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. How is this going to work for me? What do I have to buy equipment for this? That's the first thing I think you think about is, okay, how much is this going to set me back? Do I need to go out and buy something really expensive? But what's so amazing and that I love about this is that there's no equipment needed. It's just whatever you are using at home, your laptop, your cell phone, which everyone has these days. And I don't want to steal your thunder, so I'm going to let you explain how that works. But if you can maybe just share with us the technology behind this process and how this works, we'll get into the benefits as well and what it does to support people. But just how the technology actually works for people would be amazing.
Yeah, we are at that juncture of spirituality and science. Really, you could say frontier science. I have the belief that really spirituality may include science. It includes science, right? And that there are undiscovered, invisible forces that are around us all the time that we're starting to discover and find ways to work with. So the FLFE technology, there's a FLFE system. It's a physical system, and it has, as Clayton said, the inventor really discovered a way to concentrate or focus life force energy. And so the system creates a very high field, a very high consciousness area within it. And what was also discovered is that it has these quantum characteristics. And it was discovered quite by accident that something put into this highly charged space, if it has an identifier, and originally when it was discovered, it was a photograph of a piece of marble, that marble would now be charged with this energy wherever it was. And in this case, it was in Europe. The inventor had shipped pieces of marble that he had kind of charged by putting them into the machine, and they would lose their energy after a while. But a photograph of that marble in that space now would perpetually or just ongoingly transfer energy or create this energetic field around this piece of marble, which was people were using for arthritis pain at the time. So that link from this space within the FLFE system to anywhere in the world is created by this unique identifier. So it would be like an address, coordinates, photograph of an object for a pendant, something like that, or a cell phone number. So that cellular device in that jurisdiction, there's only one. There's only one with that number. So it's uniquely identified. And what we're able to do with the system is activate a consciousness field around it and specify that. So, for instance, with the phone, they're within 9 feet of the phone is a very high consciousness environment. And it's also mitigating EMFs. That's partly why it feels calm. And for many people, reducing EMF symptoms, we have science around that. So that quantum connection occurs when someone goes on the free trial, which has been our primary way of giving people the experience. No credit card, they can just try it out. Is you get on and the website, the web link, put in your phone number and address, and the service is on. I mean, it's just literally seconds. So, we've been able to enable that through technology and through the original system. So that's primarily how it works. And it's very similar to human consciousness in that if you're thinking of someone, and there's plenty of science around the bond between twins and between mother and child, and also distance healing and Reiki, there's quite a bit of now science around that quantum connection occurs when someone's holding in mind that unique identifier for that person, whether it's a photograph, a name, email address, something, or we're just sending mom a healing prayer because she's got a headache. We're holding her in our mind, that unique identifier is there. We believe a consciousness field activates around that person, and now that love that you're sending, that healing energy is there in their environment.
That's great. And I wanted to share some of the pictures, if I could, just to kind of illustrate. I always think a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? So people get a better understanding of how this operates for them. So this is just kind of a cool picture of showing what it looks like if somebody's out in the world and they have, I wrote personal, but you may have, is this the everywhere or the personal service?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Okay. So anywhere you go, you've got this little bubble around you. And I think that is the coolest thing. And then here's another version. And it operates, as you mentioned earlier, off of your cell phone number, correct?
Correct. That identifier or a photograph of an object. Because some people don't use phones.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, like a pendant
there's like one
or a necklace.
person that doesn't use a phone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So something personal to you that you would have with you at all times, right? And then you have this little bubble. Oh, okay. That's a good thing to have, because a lot of people have that. And then the next level up from there is if you want to have it in your home, or I understand you can also cover your business with this as well. And so here's what your home might look like with your frequency bubble covering it. This is the home one again, but I just think it's such a nice way to represent what that might look like, because it's a very ethereal type of concept for a lot of people. So they might not be able to grasp, well, what exactly is this? So it's really an energy that you're kind of surrounding yourself with. Would that be a good way to describe that? You're raising that level of consciousness through that energy.
It's very much like a pilgrimage site. If you go to somewhere like Lourdes, France, or some of the cathedrals in Europe are known for their experience. India has a very interesting history of pilgrimage sites. They have individual temples that are designed and architected and prayed upon for fertility, or good crops, a good harvest, or a successful business, or a blessed wedding, things like that. There's many temples in India that are very specific to a certain type of energy field. And we would call that the information in the field. So when you have a consciousness field, you have a lot of positive energy, we would call it. And then you would have information in the field, which would be the request to divinity, just like Jeff's metaphor of praying for your mother, you're praying for relief of her headache in that case. So there's the love, which is the high energy. And then there's the information, which is the specific request for healing.
Great.
Talk a little bit about consciousness fields as well, because they surround us, and that's what Dr. David Hawkins really helped bring out, was that consciousness fields are not just created by humans and by intelligence, but they're really everywhere, and there's memory of that, whatever has happened at a particular place, that's in the crystalline structure of the ground, the gravel, the concrete, the drywall, concrete block. So consciousness fields exist, and as we're walking around the world, we seem to be really adapted to that, to feel that, like to go into a low consciousness field. So if you've ever been in an old prison or a battlefield, and even like walking down a dark alley or a place, maybe it's not in such a good neighborhood. Well, there may have been theft or who knows what negative things happened in that place. And as you walk into that, you can kind of feel it in your body. It's like there's a feeling of danger or maybe a heaviness in a prison. That low consciousness field sort of stimulates us to be more vigilant and to look around. And then a high consciousness field, many people also feel that, like as sort of an uplifted energy, which we might feel now, or just more personal energy, more feeling of just the ability to get things done, but also a calmness and a feeling of peace and love. That as we went into a pilgrimage site, or we found a place in the woods that happened to be a high consciousness field due to maybe a natural occurrences, that we would feel good and we'd want to stay there and kind of reap the benefits of having more chi, prana, life force energy there available for us for our body to pull in and to use for healing.
So if someone was to activate this field, let's say the everywhere field, and they would go out in the world, let's just say they go to a concert, because there's so much energy at a concert, right? There's so many people in one place. Would this help them in those times when they're interacting with other people's energy fields, especially in a large place like that?
Actually, the Everywhere service has a 300-foot bubble. So it's 150 feet from each side of you. And the 9 feet area is really, really high. And it's got different qualities in it. But so you would affect everybody within 150 feet of you either way. So it's a blessing for them. It does help mitigate EMFs the closer you get. So you'll be less unsettled if you're EMF sensitive. You would tend to have a greater sense of self, a greater sense of personal autonomy. When we did research on the effects that people have experienced in the FLFE high consciousness field, they found that it was one of the top characteristics of the field was it was easier to forgive. Now, that might not be a concert focus, but it was easier to change a negative thought to a positive thought. That was one of the big ones, one of the top 3. So if you're in a concert and you're getting bounced around a little bit, if you start to get a bit upset, you're more likely to be able to stay present and stay in the excitement of the event, as opposed to, being upset at somebody who might have, bumped you or something else that's going on. So that would be a couple of concert relevant pieces of the field. Yeah.
I think it's important to notice that the consciousness level is in the high unconditional love level. So it's that those bubbles that we looked at before are really unconditional love bubbles. And so being in that unconditional love, first of all, you're feeling that, so you're with other people, and it's like propagates love, like what could be better. But that's, I think, where the forgiveness comes from as well. It's forgiving of self and others, kind of being in that unconditional love zone. It's like going to grandma's house on Thanksgiving and everybody's getting along and it's just lots of love. Just walking into that love zone is the feeling that's in the bubble. And so that it's just positive for everybody. We see a lot of kids, like really positive effects on kids, on having more energy to do homework, just being more loving and forgiving with their siblings. We even have this almost unbelievable thing that happens often, is that teenagers clean their rooms. It's like this feeling of a high
Wow, that's
consciousness field.
shocking.
You want to take care of the place. Yeah, it's shocking. It happens often.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I love that. I know there's a whole list of benefits. You've covered just a handful so far, but I just want to read off a few others because I think it's worth mentioning. You did mention EMF mitigation, which is really important to a lot of people right now. And we are getting a lot of EMF signals from our devices, and everyone has one. So, everyone's looking for a way to reduce that. The daily consciousness boosts, which we'll talk about that in a minute because I want to share my experience with that. And then I think you may have mentioned increased personal energy as being one of the benefits, enhanced focus and creativity, the harmonized relationships. I think that's a big one for people these days. A lot of people are having some challenges within relationships in the same home. So this would be a big benefit for those people. And I think Clayton, you may have mentioned deeper meditations, and I'm going to share my testimony about feelings of calmness. And then you just mentioned, Jeff, increased forgiveness. And also that's a big important piece as well. But then the other thing that I think people would benefit from and really be interested in is improved sleep, because everyone needs more sleep these days, and immunity support, because right now everyone's kind of suffering from something. So this, I think, would benefit them in that way. But I'm going to let you jump in if there's anything you want to share in addition to what I've listed.
Well, in this frontier science, and we've attracted a major scientist, Dr. Gary Schwartz. We didn't we didn't go looking for him. He found us through one of our customers at the University of Arizona. But he's like the gold standard of science, particularly science that bridges spirituality and mainstream science. So we have a number of EMF studies, 5 EMF studies. And so the best way in frontier science, is something happening? Is there an effect? And what is the effect that people are noticing? So in EMF mitigation, which we realized a number of years ago, I think it was back in 18 and 19, was like EMFs lower the consciousness of an environment. So they lower the sort of the positivity and the life affirming qualities of an environment. So we realized that we had to mitigate that as part of the service. And so we worked with the University of Pennsylvania researcher as well, came up with 30 symptoms that people have or notice when they're EMF sensitive. And there's all such a range of EMF sensitivity. So the biggest ones were the biggest effect where the FLFE environment was first not on, and then it was added in these 45-day experiments. It was in the 40 people in the last experiment, was insomnia, like better sleep, like a reduction in insomnia. So people were seeing their sleep suddenly get much better, like the first night. And it's a wide range of results, but that was one of probably the biggest. Anxiety was right behind that. So these were big changes in the way people felt. They really a feeling of calm and much less anxiety, but also things like headaches, depression. And anyway, all that research is there, and there's a white paper in the research section of the website. So we highly recommend everyone take a look at the science that's there.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to ask you about the research. A lot of people, that's one of the questions they're going to ask is, well, what has been done for research on this? So you do have that information to provide, and I appreciate that. We'll definitely include a link to the website in the description of the video so anyone can go there and read testimonials. They can look up the research themselves and read more about this. But I did have a question just as you were speaking, and I was wondering, in terms of side effects, have you had any negative side effects? Is there anyone that has ever had anything other than something positive to report back on? I'm just curious.
Well, we had a few people that found that they wanted to turn the energy down a little bit because it was so enlivening that they were a little bit restless. And so in our
Mhm.
control panel, if you do the free trial, you actually have a consciousness slider, and you can turn the level of
Mhm.
consciousness of the environment up, and you can also turn it down. You can pause the EMF mitigation to turn that on and off. You can do boosts. You can do a 600 consciousness boost or an 850 boost, and you can be your own consciousness researcher and see how the environment
Mhm.
affects you. So that's the only thing where people find that all that extra energy, if they have it high, then their body starts to use it, of course, to heal, because their body is so intelligent, right? Our bodies are amazing. So that's the only thing we
Mhm.
have, and that happens maybe, I can say,
Right.
less than 1% of the time for sure.
So this is actually what you're just referring to. Since I'm on the trial right now, as you can see, I've already done a boost today. So that's why this one says boost complete. So I did the 600 level of consciousness boost for 30 minutes, and I still have one left, which I'm saving for just before bedtime to try to help me, calm my mind and get a good night's rest. But I will say, and this is where my testimony comes in, the first day that I tried this, I started off with the 850 boost for 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, this is nice. Like I definitely felt a sense of calmness come over me. And I was just sitting at my desk working, and I was probably sitting for a couple of hours. And I finally got up to go and get a drink of water. And when I stood up, I was actually dizzy. I was like, whoa, okay, there's something to this. And that's, so to your point, Clayton, I probably needed to go with the lower level boost to start out. So I think I may have made a too big of a leap there out of the gate, but it showed me that there was something to it. I definitely felt a difference, and as I mentioned before we started recording, I have noticed just an overall sense of calmness that I've had since I've been bathing in this energy for the past week or so. So I definitely have noticed a difference in terms of just being much more calm. So I just wanted to share that with you, that's my testimony about this. So
Yeah, the boosts were meant to be there for those times when to change the channel or change the mood sometimes. Parents use it for homework time. The 600 boost seems to be really good to just because suddenly there's more chi, more prana, more life force energy, and it just it goes. As Clayton said, the body is so intelligent; it goes where it's needed. And for kids, they've been in school all day. They've been using their mental facilities, and they're probably tired. Their brains are tired, and that chi, like if you do Chinese medicine, you would go to the Chinese medicine practitioner. They would either read your pulse or in some other way sort of assess where low energy is occurring in your system. Well, in the FLFE environment, in that high consciousness field, that energy is just coming in, the body's taking it where it needs to go. And so it's going up to our cognitive processes and really helping. And that's where not only the creativity seems to be the mind quieting and just more creativity happening, but also we saw in a preliminary experiment with the Institute of Noetic Sciences an increase in cognitive function and executive function, particularly. That was just an increase in capability. So just more energy, better functioning there.
and who doesn't need that, right? We all need that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, improved concentration is a big gift for many people.
I think a lot of people suffer from ADD and ADHD, so this would definitely be a huge benefit for
Mm.
those people to be
Mhm.
able to concentrate and focus. And I know that you generously have offered to activate a high consciousness field for anyone that is listening to this podcast, even on the replay. And that was something that was definitely of interest for me. I love to be able to do what I can to help people. And if that's something that you are willing to offer to us, I think anybody would be willing to accept that. So we want to say thank you for the offer, and we will gladly take that offer.
Great.
We could move to the 850 now, Clayton, if you want.
Yeah, I had mine on. I had my 700 on, so.
Well,
We could do a
we're
couple
moving
minutes
it
at
up to
850.
850 at this time, which So these numbers are on the Dr. David Hawkins map of consciousness, which maybe we should just explain that a little bit for people that don't know about it. So Dr. David Hawkins was a psychiatrist with a very large practice in the U.S. and in New York, and he had a near-death experience at one time in his life, and he kind of catapulted to a higher level of consciousness, and he started really studying it and wrote a whole series of books about consciousness and about the progression as we evolve and kind of expand in our consciousness awareness. And he created a scale, and we use a modified version of that. That's kind of our own scale, but it's parallel or similar to it. So it's really to infinity or divinity, you could say, but in the human realm to 1,000. Like below 200, things are not positive; they're negative. So you might have fear and anger, despair, things like that in the lower areas. And then as you move up into the 300s and 400s, that's sort of like materialistic science, and the current, for instance, North America is generally in that realm. And then you get into the 500s, which is love, and the upper 500s unconditional love, and that's where the love bubble, the fluffy love bubble is. And then 600 starts the nonlinear realms, and so that's the first boost. And each point upwards is 10 times more energy available. So if you're at say 550 on the service and you do a 600 boost, that's 10 to the 50th power more energy, more chi, more prana available for you.
So is that what we're experiencing right now? Is that higher level of consciousness field?
We actually went up to 850, which is really, really unusual.
So one thing that I know is important when you are in these higher fields of consciousness is to drink water. And that's something that you highly recommend, is to hydrate.
Yes, we've found that in high consciousness fields, because the body is so intelligent, it takes all of that energy and it starts to do repairs. It's just like writing a check to the contractors to do a renovation in your house. And we recommend for the first 3 days, you do about 0.8 of your body weight in ounces of water with a little bit of maybe salt in there for electrolytes, and then 0.66 after that, which is a pretty standard measurement for many doctors in terms of hydration. So if you were 100 pounds, you drink 66 ounces of water or electrolyte fluid. So that's, we do notice that makes a big difference for people when they're well hydrated. And people oftentimes report that they have a desire to drink more water just naturally. The body's thirst receptors seem to recognize that, we need more water in here to do all the healing. So it's you might be experiencing that naturally.
And what I also love that you offer is a free trial. So that's what I'm using right now. And anyone who wants to try this, it's so great that there's no strings attached. You just put in the information that is required to identify you, but no credit card is needed. And that will link you to the trial, and you will start for 2 weeks to experience this for yourself and decide if you can see the difference. And of course, we're going to put all of that information in the description box below. I think that's something that everyone can benefit from and should definitely give it a try. And my goal with doing this series, this wellness series, is that we are offering unconventional options for people as a way to increase their wellness. And I think this is such a great option. It's very affordable. It's easy to use. It works directly with the technology that you have already. And it's easy to understand as well. So I love that this is something simple for people to incorporate into their life. And the other thing that I love is that you have also merged the spirituality with the business side. I know that's very important to you. That's part of one of your tenets, is that you're in service to people with this. So I just want to ask if you could share a few words with us about that.
Well, our basis for when we created the business was to always have some piece that's giving back, that's And so we created what we call a PIF, or pay it forward. So that's a free subscription that goes anywhere that you decide once someone subscribes, and that's perpetual. That goes on for as long as we have the business. But we've been running the business based on what we can discern is the highest and best interest of all, creation. So that's kind of our guiding principle, and it's when we hire, what we pay, what we charge for the service, each, the new thing that we add to the service. So we use the kinesiology or muscle testing to help us discern that, as well as our individual intuition. But so Clayten has, sort of back engineered the Dr. Hawkins kinesiology methods and taught it to a group in the business. And so we test or measure various things and check each other. So that's really a important basis for the company, is really knowing, what in a pathway, what's A versus B, which is kind of in the flow of creation of the universe, in the flow of things, because the ego can get in the way, the other things not related to that can get in the way. So we try to run the business that way. And we also, Clayten, do you want to tell them about the way that we quarterly look at what's the direction for the business?
I learned this from Dorothy McLean, who was one of the founders of Finhorn. I spent a week with her just up the lake from where I live, actually, at Johnson's Landing Retreat Center. And they would attune into the essence of the garden and talk to the elementals of the gardens and the David kingdom. And so we believe that every business that has a positive intent towards humanity has an energy about it, even ones that are maybe not so positive. Everything has an energy. So we tune into the energy of the business, and oftentimes there's, beings in the angelic realm that support positive intent. So we try to access all the positive energies around the business that we can, and we ask the business how it wants to express in the next quarter or in the next phase of the business. For example, we're just coming out of a phase that we called roots and shoots. So we sort of go around the circle and everybody sort of gives their input, and then we come up with a theme. And roots and shoots was about developing stronger roots so that we can grow the business more, to scale it. So we went back and we took all the systems that we had learned over the last 10 years and put them in a training manual, and made sure they were really consistent, so that as we bring more people on, we have a higher standard of service. So that's kind of the that's where that dance happens between understanding the spiritual aspect of life, and that we're all spirit, of course. And then there's the science and the metrics and the key performance indicators, as you would call them in business, that guide how that expresses in the 3D world. So that's part of what we call business as a spiritual path.
Yeah, that's so great. I mean, businesses would benefit greatly if they operated in that capacity, to bring in a level of consciousness to the business. And that's probably a piece that is missing in a lot of businesses right now. So I think the way that you're doing things is amazing. And that's the way, we should take a page out of your book and start operating that way across the globe with all of these other, especially the large corporations, and especially in big business, banking, all of these large companies could really benefit from that. So I just want to say thank you so much to both of you for your time today. And thank you for developing this incredible technology. I think this is something that is definitely in service to humanity, and people will absolutely benefit from this. So I'm going to make sure to put all of the links in the description box so people know where to go to try this out. And everyone should absolutely, just at the very least, try the free trial and see how you experience it yourself. And just before we wrap up, is there any final comments that you'd like to make to anyone listening today?
I would just mention that the free trial is designed to be a gift, a 2-week gift, whether you sign up or not. And of course, since there's no credit card, you can't sign up accidentally. But especially the home free trial, it's designed to clear the negative history on the land. So we don't know who lived there before and maybe what happened on that land before even a building was built. And those negative or low consciousness fields can affect us. And there can be thought forms there that can affect us. Like in Japan, if there's been a suicide in an apartment, people don't want to buy it. And there's good reason for that. So I just would say as a final that the free trial is a gift and it will clear the land. And then that remains even if you decide not to subscribe.
Well, we started the business as a spiritual practice. So you take one part of your business and you focus on being really conscious about that and checking in with divinity and asking what what it wants to have expressed through the business. And of course, you need to operate your business in such a way that you make a profit, so you stay in business. It doesn't, deny that. And then we go to business as a spiritual path, just from having one focus of the business, and it's like the business becomes your monastery, right? So all the spiritual lessons of life, they show up everywhere. They'll show up at home, being in a marriage, having children, being in business. They show up everywhere. They're not hard to find. So if you just consider your business your monastery, that's what we would see the differentiation between business as a spiritual practice, where it's one particular thing that you focus on. Just saying a prayer before every meeting, like we said a little prayer before we started today. And then business as a spiritual service is where, you think that the best contribution you can make to life at that point in your existence is to keep operating your business, even if you don't need the money, and you just maybe give the profits away or give it to your employees, which would be a way of taking care of them. So the business does have the capacity to play that role in our life where, we can make a significant contribution to the world by being in business. You don't have to necessarily go to a monastery. You don't have to take a more traditional spiritual focus. It can be, business can be that expression, and it can be that path if that's what you make it. And so that's an opportunity for all of us who work for a living, and we don't have to just think about Sunday or some course we're taking as being spiritual work. It can be, just every day, just at work.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for starting this business. And I think it will be a great benefit to anyone who subscribes. So thank you so much. Thank you for your time and your energy. And I honor you for that today. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.